Get Gutsy, episode number 224 with Nick and Katherine North. Just another beautiful family. Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting-edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now. Hey there. Welcome back to Get Gutsy. It's Jenny here. I'm recording this episode for you, or this intro for you rather, the morning that my family and I are heading out to Cleveland, Ohio. For just about a week, my husband has realized a long-time dream to work with his beloved Cleveland Browns football team. He's a sports television producer, and he's been hired as the producer of the preseason games. So all of August, this is his life, and we're going to be out there for a week, just being part of this exciting opportunity. My father's coming up from Atlanta. We're going to do a lot of different things in Cleveland. I've never been to Cleveland before, and just been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm so excited for him. I'm happy for him, and I will let you know how everything goes down, if you will. I'll be sharing some magic over on my Instagram stories, so make sure you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I enjoy giving you a slice of my life and just connecting with you in that way. My heart is heavy today. Yesterday there was just again the horrible news of a mass shooting, which honestly is, it's hard to ignore the fact that it's essentially homegrown terrorism here in the United States. There was a mass shooting in El Paso, Texas, and a few hours later we saw news that there was yet another mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio. And gosh, it was about a week ago, there was another mass shooting at a garlic festival in California. We obviously had a major issue on our hands here in the United States. It's just ridiculous. It's enraging, it's heartbreaking, it's all of the things. I don't know exactly what the answer is and how we're going to get where we need to be. I wish we could be more like New Zealand. When they had their mass shooting, they made a change. They just changed the laws, and their prime minister is such an inspiration and someone I deeply, deeply admire. Jacinda, just looking at her last name and my head is kind of spinning right now trying to make this for you and get out the door. Yeah, Jacinda Ardern. I wish our leaders were more like her. I wish our country could make those moves, what New Zealand did, what Australia did, and as of yet we have not been courageous enough and bold enough to make the moves that we needed to. I am going to talk more about this after I made a post on Facebook and Instagram yesterday regarding our. Hold on, my daughter just walked in. Okay, I'm back. And I like to keep it real with you all about my life and the kids and the family. It's like you're never going to get perfect for me. If my child walks in, you're probably going to know it. And I want you to know I don't want your imperfectly perfect life to get in the way of you putting your message out there and sharing what you're here to share. So anyway, I am going to talk more about this. When I posted about this horrible news on social media, a woman named Julie Lieberman-Neal reached out to me and asked if I would submit an episode on this topic, record a podcast episode and submit it to the Women Podcasters in Solidarity Initiative. They are working on this season's topic is the intersectional impact of gun violence, and they need more episodes to move people. And I am going to put something together, and I'll keep you posted on it. If you have ideas or things that you want me to talk about, please reach out, support@jennyfennig.com. Send us a note. I am honored to serve you and to create content that moves you and that is helpful for you. And I will be talking more about this. You know that I believe in using my platform to shine a light on social justice issues, how we can make an impact, and I'm here to do that. So, we have an incredible episode for you today. I wanted to make sure we got this out to you while I was out traveling with my family. The name of this episode is Just Another Beautiful Family, and it is the second episode in 4 years, almost 4 years. We've been publishing Get Gutsy for just about 4 years. It's only the second episode in that time where I am interviewing two guests simultaneously. And what an amazing episode this is for you today. You're about to meet Nick and Katherine North, a beautiful couple living with their children in the great country of Canada. Katherine was a cynic who didn't even believe in true love until she accidentally fell in love at almost 40 years old with her best friend, Nick. But when they fell in love, he wasn't Nick. He was Nikki. And Nikki was pregnant with baby number 4. Assigned female at birth, Nick always knew deep down that he was a man trapped in a woman's body. A stay-at-home pregnant mom and family photographer who didn't think life could be any different. He was stuck in a life that should have made him happy, but wasn't his own. Together, they navigated Nick's transition from female to male as a couple and as parents and as business owners. They negotiated the challenges of transitioning while blending a family and keeping their businesses afloat. They continue maneuvering through marriage, parenting 5 kids, non-traditional gender roles, like who pays the bills and does the dishes, and so much more. Nick and Katherine teach us that every family is different and families can be more than the traditional man, woman, and kids, and it's okay to live in our absolute truth. Once we own up to our truth, success will follow. And what I love about this conversation is they're just so open, they're so bold, they're so just real. They're just like regular people, and you're going to hear that they recently received a grant to create a documentary film about their family called Just Another Beautiful Family. They're developing the Beautiful Families Project and really are there to provide this sort of support and awareness for and about non-traditional families. And I just loved this conversation. We just went where it went, and I know you're going to get so much from it. I'd like you to share this episode with a friend, put it out on social media, share the link, text the link, email the link, whatever. I was just talking to a longtime colleague of mine who shared that her son transitioned to a woman. She now has a daughter, and it was so fascinating to hear her share this with me. And I knew that I was about to publish this episode, and I said, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm about to publish this episode, and I know that there's someone out there who is going to benefit from this conversation. So without further ado, I introduce you to Nick and Katherine North as we dive deep into this episode of Get Gutsy. Enjoy.
Katherine and Nick, welcome to Get Gutsy. Hi.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. You all are in very rare company, I'll just say, because I think I've had only one other episode in the 4+ years and 200+ episodes that we have created for Get Gutsy where we've had a duo. Okay, so I want to start off by saying we are just moving into some really powerful terrain. And the last duo we had was a married couple, and it was really fun to have them on. And so here we are. I know this is going to go in a really, really powerful direction. And what I love about this show is I never quite know where we're going to end up. And I'm okay with that, because this is the power of just showing up as leaders, showing up with our truth, showing up with this message that we're here to share. So first off, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're super excited to be here.
And tell everyone, where am I talking to you from? Where are y'all based?
We are in a little town called Okotoks, which is outside Calgary, which is in Alberta, which is in Canada. But I'm from Oregon.
Got it.
Say that because I'm not from here. I'm a transplant.
If there's any country to transplant to, Canada is it.
Like we're winning.
It's like I have fantasies. I really do. You should know.
It was for love, not the politics, but that was very convenient. I got to tell you.
Good. I mean, we go to Canada pretty much once a year. We're only about 4 to 5 hour drive from Montreal. My boys are big Montreal Canadiens hockey fans, so that's a piece of the journey. And you will be very impressed to know, I think, that we participated in this geography fair for my kids. We homeschool. We have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. With our boys, they're older. We homeschool them. We could pick any place in the whole world. We picked Canada. And so we did this whole project on Canada. And I feel, I know some things now.
You're like an honorary Canadian. You might know more than we do.
Probably.
It was really fun doing that project. Okay, so how did you all meet?
We met in the Poconos Mountains. We were both, Katherine was speaking at an event at a summer camp for creative entrepreneurs called Brand Camp, the camp. And it was one of my good friends who was running the event. And so I was helping to manage it behind the scenes and whatnot. And there she was, and I was smitten.
Wow, we became instant best friends.
I was smitten, and I was also pregnant, and had my 6-month-old with me. Yeah, so it was.
Okay.
We were instantly best friends.
You were smitten with Katherine.
Yes.
You were pregnant, and you had already a 6-month-old with you. So take us into your life at that point.
So that I'm like, that's the only way I know how to go.
I was like, it's getting.
It's super exciting. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I am transgender. I lived the first 31 years of my life playing a girl in girl mode, I like to call it. And I did all the right things. I got married. I had 4 children. I did my best at being a girl, even though I was really not super good at it. And then I met this one and fell in love and turned my life upside down and realized that I could, in fact, be who I was meant to be. And I transitioned.
Wow, what a beautiful. I mean, so how long did you always know that you I'm playing girl? So you knew from so long ago that this is just a charade, I'm just going to do this because this is what society tells me one does when one is born in a body that looks like a girl's?
Yeah.
How did that work for you?
I think that it was a little bit of all of it. So I remember lots of times as a kid knowing that being but I'm a boy, and everyone being no, you're not. And then sort of realizing probably around 7 or 8 that this wasn't going to happen, and that this is just this doesn't go well for you when you talk about this. You should everyone wants you to stop talking about it. This is who you are. This is what you're stuck with. Just do it. And so I worked really hard at just being a girl. And I think that I blocked out a lot of the I don't know that if you had asked me at 13 if I thought I was supposed to be a boy, if I would have had the ability to say that. I just knew that I didn't feel good in my body all the time. That nothing fit. My skin always felt itchy.
I don't know that anybody had language for this.
This is a different time, right? I mean, how old are you?
I'm 34, so I was born in 85. So,
92. I don't know that most parents would have been oh, honey, maybe you're transgender. I wouldn't have had that language at that point. I don't know.
And then I knew that I wish that I could have a wife instead of a husband, as a kid. But then the first person I ever met who was gay, died of AIDS like 4 years later. So it was sort of this thing where like, oh, wait a second, like even as a small kid being like, I know that the only gay person I know died terribly. This isn't a good thing. And so I think that there was a lot of like, just, this isn't safe. You have to just be who you are. Who everyone thinks you are.
Right. So you kept up that facade. I mean, 4 kids too. I mean, you really went for it.
I really went for it. I wore nail polish. Nail polish and birthing children. I did it all.
You did it all. You really did. You're like, I'm going to give this my best shot. All right. I will say
I didn't try.
I freaking tried.
Right?
I tried. I mean, come on. You really did. And was it meeting Katherine where just something shifted in you, or you said, the jig is up? Like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, I think that it was a combination of, I always had this plan with my ex-husband. We were going to have 4 kids. We had a plan, we had a contract. And I think that there was this part of like, we had our 4th kid and I wasn't any happier. I had accomplished all the check boxes, like all the lists of things. I owned a big house. I had a nice SUV. The fridge had the water and the ice dispenser in the door. I had the babies. Like, what more could you want? I had all life's features. I had checked all the boxes, and I was like, oh, I'm wildly unhappy. And that was around the same time that I was best friends with this one and was absolutely falling in love with her. But I was like, it's safe because you're not gay, you're straight. And then it was this thing where we sort of fell in love with each other without even realizing we were falling in love with each other. And all of a sudden I was like, I can't stay unhappy anymore. It's okay that you're straight and that's fine, but I'm going to go be gay somewhere else. And I'm going to like take my life apart and undo my marriage. And I need to do something to change something because I'm not happy. And it turns out that she wasn't straight. And so, and she is the first person that was ever worth turning everything upside down for.
Wow.
The only person.
I mean, it's just amazing. Oh, that's so sweet. I'm just thrilled for you. So, but it was also interesting to me how this all happened because, so much of my show is about the work. I have this line, like, the work is the way. And if you can see my poster behind my desk here, it says, the work continues, stay fierce. I bought that at this really awesome shop in Salem, Massachusetts, which is like, I went there and I was like, oh my God, my witch was just off the charts. I was like, I'm home. Okay. Yeah, it was incredible. And so what you mentioned, you went to this event in the Pocono, that's where you met, Brands Camp, and that's also my background. My corporate career was building brands. And so, it was through this thing of the work. And so, Nick, were you just assisting with details? Did you have interest in brands? Like, and then what was Katherine's role there? She was speaking there. Like, what was that kind of the work situation that was happening there?
Yeah, so it was a creative camp for solo like entrepreneurs. So it was basically like photographers and writers and artists and designers and web designers and all sorts of types of people. And I was there sort of helping with the details, and because I was a brand strategist myself, and it was my friend who was a brand strategist who was putting it on. And so, I was just I was there helping a friend with her work that sort of overlapped with mine. And Katherine was teaching a class on energetic boundaries.
So I was there to talk to them about how do you do business, how do you be a fierce, powerful entrepreneur and honor that creativity and that sensitivity and the intense empathy that so many creatives have. That is both the thing that allows them to do their work, but can also become a liability. If you don't know how to wield it properly, it's like you have all these extra antennas that are picking up everybody's stuff. And if no one's ever taught you how to like tune them in properly, you can end up being like Edward Scissorhands and just kind of like hit yourself. So I was there to talk about both practical and energetic boundaries as a creative entrepreneur. My favorite things to talk about.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that visual of the Edward Scissorhands things. And a lot of the listeners I know are resonating with that, because I have highly empathic people in my world. Many struggle with boundaries, especially when we start working, deeply with clients. Most of my listeners are in the coaching, consulting, service-based realm, lots of healers, lots of, yoga teachers, Reiki people, therapists, like that. It's like, we're the helpers, like we're the helpers. And yet, if you don't have these boundaries dialed in, you take on people's shit, and you love them and you want to hold it with them. But I always say to people, then you give it back. Like, it's not yours. Just because they're having a shitty day doesn't mean, well, now I need to have a shitty day because they're, and a lot of people don't get that, or we take on this negative feedback we get around this thing, like someone's uncomfortable, or we trigger someone because we stand in our power around sales, or we stand in our power around whatever it is, fill in the blank, that we know that we created something extraordinary, and not everyone can handle that. And so if we don't do that deep energetic work, we burn out, or we quit. We just say, you know what, this is too freaking hard. Okay, so kind of the spark started flying. You all developed this relationship. Nick eventually comes to Katherine and says, all right, listen, I'm making a change here, because I can't deny this any longer. What was that period like? I mean, how long did that whole taking apart the life and putting it back together with you two being, a family? How long did that take? How was the work impacted? All that.
Oh, it was messy.
It was messy.
Yeah.
It was complicated. I don't think that there is an elegant, beautiful way to take apart one marriage and create a new family out of that. Like, I don't know anybody who can do that perfectly. And we certainly didn't do it perfectly. And if we could go back and do it again, Lord knows there are things we would do differently.
Sure.
But we were absolutely trying in the moment just to do the very best that we could, with as much honesty and integrity and kindness as we could muster. And part of the way that we did that was to create some time and space around it. So, we fell in love, we were madly in love. And because of our situation, because we were both parents, because we were, grown-ups, it wasn't like,
we lived in different countries.
We lived in different countries. It wasn't like we could just be like, well, let's try dating for a little bit and see what happens. I mean, the conversation from the beginning was either you're going to leave your marriage and we're going to get married, or we're not going to do this at all. Like, there was no,
but we had to be able to see that it definitely had more than just like, oh, it'll be a fun time. And
we're interested in try dating. Like, no, that was never the conversation, because we were such deep friends, in that way that
right. Wasn't be casual. This wasn't casual.
Yeah, like we knew each other's hearts, we knew each other's trauma, we knew each other in this way that, like, dating people don't get to know each other, because we started out as friends. So from the very beginning, it was this like, okay, what are we going to do? My daughter and I lived in Portland. Nick and the other 4 of our kids lived up here in Canada. And so from kind of the very beginning, it was just like, all right, what are we going to do? So one of the things that we did was we created some time and space around it. We decided that our oldest and I wouldn't move for a year, because we wanted to give the kids enough time to process everything. We worked really closely with the therapist the whole time.
It was actually 18 months.
18 months. Okay.
18 months, yeah.
So who worked with the therapist? The entire unit? You two?
Yeah, I worked with the therapist on my own. Katherine had a coach.
We worked with the therapist jointly. Together. We made plans for the kids. They met with the therapist.
Yeah, like we got all the support.
That's so smart. I mean, thank you for doing that. I mean, God, the whole world, if they would do this, kind of like, we would eliminate a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, right. And so we did the thing where I went home. I went and ended my marriage and spent about 4 months like consciously uncoupling and moving out of that house and into my own space with our kids and doing it like slowly. Like, I lived in the basement for a little while first, and we shared the house because that was what was best for our kids. And I was the primary parent and a work at home parent. And so it didn't make sense for me just to like move out all of a sudden. And then it was complicated. So there was a lot of like just taking it slowly. And then I think that we didn't even blend our families, like spending the weekend together, until 10 months of us dating and and being like, this is what's happening, and letting them have their birthdays and their Christmas and all of the things experienced separately.
Yeah.
Before we moved into a new family. That makes sense.
Yeah. How did your husband take this, Nick? Was
not great. No one wants to find out that they're married.
Right. Is this like,
right. And it's better for everyone. And he's a great guy, and emotions run high, and everyone says and does things that aren't their favorite thing to say and do if they look back on it. But he didn't take it well. But we're in a good spot now. We do joint Christmases and joint birthdays and all the things, and
so you found a new normal.
Happy queer family. Yeah.
Yeah, a big happy queer family. That could be the name of something. Okay, just so you know, like that's a show. Yeah. Okay. Wasn't that like my big fat Greek wedding?
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and what was your, like for you? You were at that time still living, in this as a female. Yeah. And so then when did that start happening where you were going through?
Yeah, so it happened in baby steps. I needed to have it was like I needed to take one step and see that the world wasn't going to fall apart, and then take the next step and see that the world wasn't going to fall apart. I worked for myself. I was worried that coming out and leaving my husband and being queer and being a lesbian at the time, that that was going to cost me business, that was going to that's messy, I'm going to stay away from that. I was a solopreneur who worked one-on-one with clients, and I was worried about it. But as I would take a step forward and reveal who I was a little bit more, people met me with love and compassion, and it turned out that I actually became more successful the more honest and open I was with who I was.
Go figure.
Right? Check that out. And it was just sort of one next foot in front of the other. And it was, Katherine knew pretty early on that I didn't feel comfortable in my body. And she was, she used he, him pronouns long before the rest of the world did. We tried on how things would feel and how things would fit and how everything would work. And sort of it let me have the safety to experiment and explore and know that I was making the right steps. Because I explored them privately before having to do it publicly.
Right.
That made it easier to have the conversation with the kids and have the conversation with my clients and have conversations as a business owner, because I knew that I was 100% sure in my choices.
Right.
And we're doing
it so critical.
Public.
Yeah.
By the time it came out publicly, we had already been working on this for 6 months between the two of us individually.
Maybe longer.
Therapist. Yeah, maybe longer. Yeah.
And that's so incredible. And I want to just make that note, no matter what our listeners are going through, we don't have to kind of process in public. And I see a lot of that happening where someone's just you can tell they're reeling from something that has gone on or they're in now. And I feel like some people think, well, they have to just get it all out there. And no, it's best if you can just keep it for yourself. It's just work it out with the person or people in your life in that inner circle who it's mostly, connected to, with a therapist, ideally with some kind of coach, some sort of support system before, and then get some awareness around it, really process so that when you come out publicly, you have a strong position. You're yes, I am fully standing in this. Otherwise, you can be so influenced by someone's comment, someone's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and that can throw you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're too raw.
We talk a lot about how important it is to speak from the scar and not the wound. And you hear a lot about being authentic and being vulnerable. And I mean, my whole business is based on being authentic and vulnerable and connecting really deeply with my people. And yet, at the same time, you can be incredibly truthful and incredibly vulnerable, but not necessarily be sharing what's happening in the moment, right? So I can tell a story from 5 years ago that is raw. I am sobbing on the floor. I told my abortion story. I've shared some extremely personal, vulnerable, raw things, but they were raw at the time, but they're not raw to me now. That's just
right.
Right. And so then I can share it in a way that is useful and helpful, because I've already
Yes.
done my own processing. So it's
Exactly.
this line of you do want to be real, you do want to be authentic and vulnerable, but that doesn't necessarily mean spraying your people with the stuff that you're trying to process.
Totally. Thank you for eloquently laying that out. You don't want to work your stuff out on your people. You need to work it out.
The other way around.
Yeah.
We're there to
No, your people are coming to you for support.
Yeah, which is why coaches need coaches, right?
Oh my God, yes. You need coaches, you need therapists, you just need your team. Like everyone needs somebody different. And I have a team of people. It's like you can't get everything from one source. I mean, you need to know kind of what your setup is. But this is a really important conversation that we have in our industry. All right, so it was long, it was messy. There were things that, go back, you might do it a little bit differently. Of course, it's like hindsight's 2020. But you get to this place and here you are. And so how then you've got these separate businesses. How is it just you both, I guess, do work from home? You've got these things that there's connections. I know you've got projects that you work on together. Just kind of, there's a lot of our people that work from home with their people, or they think that would be really awesome.
Oh, life is intense. Woo! Yeah.
So we actually tried to work together. We tried to both work in my business for a little bit.
Got it.
First moved up here. Oh my gosh, total disaster.
Don't do that.
We don't work well together.
No.
At least not when it's one of our stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
because it's someone's thing, right? This is my vision. You got this person coming in making suggestions. You're like, excuse me.
And just our work style is very different, and our communication style is very different. I am actually very, very direct. And Nick is much more of like the diplomat.
If we were to gender our communication styles, she communicates like a dude.
Yeah.
And I communicate like a woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm I talk about this a lot because I was socialized 31 years as a woman. So just because I now take testosterone and present it like I do, and then my outsides match my insides, I still have all of that same socialization that every woman is, just drowned in day after day of like, be polite, don't take up too much space, conflict is bad, smile, you should know, don't be threatening, don't be too big, don't make anyone feel like they're too small, I have all of that. And she's just like, fuck that shit, I don't believe in any of that. So
that's a whole lot of bullshit. Yeah,
and where I'm like, I believe it, even though I don't want to. I can't, just because I have a different, hormonal level now doesn't mean that I can undo the socialization of 31 years overnight.
Yeah.
So,
which gives you the super interesting perspective, because
totally, you kind of got it all going on. You're like,
I do.
I can see from all these different angles.
Sometimes it's a mess in my head.
What's your
Okay, I was going to say, shortly after we had transitioned enough that you were always gendered male wherever we went. And at one point you turned to me and you were like, oh my God, you're right. The world is as misogynistic as you said it was. You weren't exaggerating. And I'm like, I've been telling you this for ages.
Because I was socialized as a woman, but I was like, it's not that bad. But I didn't realize how much it's like now being in the male perspective, like it's actually worse than women think it is. Because you can see it from what all the guys are, if you can actually hear the locker room talk, when there's no woman around and everyone thinks it's safe to say what they really feel about things, it is way worse than you think it is. And it's like, it's a humbling, like scary sort of.
And why do you think that is? Now that you are male, and you're kind of privy to some of this information, and maybe you're just receiving downloads from the cosmic force. Why is that? Is it because the men, the way they're socialized? Is it just the power structure, keeping everyone in their place?
I think it's the way it's the power structure that's already there, and it is all of us getting sucked into it and socializing our girls one way and our boys the other way. And I always say that, yes, the woman's house is currently on fire, but the house next door is the men's house, and it is dilapidated and falling down and is about to spark any moment.
Deep poison.
It's like, it's got, and it's not, it's not men's fault that they're socialized that way. It's their fault that they're choosing to turn a blind eye to it, and their actions are their choices are their faults. But it's not as simple as like men are bad and women are great. It's as, because guess who's raising the men? Typically women all around the world are raising boys, and they're still growing up in toxic masculinity. They're still thinking that their best assets is like, can they procreate? Are they physically powerful, and can they provide? Those are what men think of as like the most important things, the 3 Ps. That's what matters. And when you put those things on people over and over and over again, and you say that these are the things that matter and nothing else does, this is what happens, you know?
Yeah. So you all tried the whole work together deal. That was a bust.
No good.
No, I'm a linear thinker. She's a global thinker.
So what did you do next? You're like,
we just went back to doing.
Yeah, we were just like, oh, this is terrible. No.
You'll keep your business. You'll keep your business. You work from home. Are your kids? Everyone's there. Are they at school? Like, what is this?
Our older kids are in school, and our younger 2 are in daycare.
Yeah. So I am parent A, as we call it, and this one's parent B. She's the breadwinner in the family. I work probably only 60%. She works 100%. And then I do mornings and get the kids off to school and do all that stuff. And she does she writes her first bit in the day every day, and she journals and like gets herself ready for like mentally to sit with clients, because that requires a lot of like mental preparation and sort of getting herself in the right place. And then in the evenings, after dinner, I'm out, because I am like the morning person, and so that's how we sort of. We still do bedtime and stuff. Like the kids would be sad if I didn't tuck them in,
But I do dinner cleanup. I am the one that's driving the train to get everyone to bed.
I'm parent B.
Yeah, I make the lunches. I clean up the house after, so we just sort of, we're both there, but we.
Yeah. Very clearly defined roles. It's like, and that's a nice structure. There's no question, well, who's doing that? And I did it last time. It's like, how did you get there? I mean, was that
a lot of fighting?
Okay, I was like, that sounds really clean.
I think what happened.
It is clean now.
Yeah.
It was messy before.
I think what happened is that we both had been married before, and we've both been in relationships before, and we both know what we didn't want again. And we are absolutely 100% committed to kind and blunt communication. This
is our motto: kind and blunt.
And if you can't be blunt, you have to be blunt.
You have to be blunt. Bluntness wins. Which is counterintuitive. It seems like it would.
Well, it's like what if you've read, Brene Brown. I've read a lot of her work, and I think it was in one of the most recent books I read of hers, Dare to Lead. And there's this whole there's so many. I almost underlined the entire freaking book, but there was an entire page. Certain pages were designed in this beautiful way, and it said, "Clear is kind, unclear is unkind." And it was like, oh, that's just like this, clear and blunt. It's like, here it is. Yes, I'm going to be able to do that today. No, I'll be able to I understand you want that, but it's going to be the end of the week. It's like, whatever it is. And so you're not kind of dancing around it and then being mad at the person, because it's like, just freaking say it.
Right. And we have these roles in corporate worlds. Here's your job description. Here's what you're responsible for when you're responsible for it. But no one has taught anyone how to have those roles in a marriage or a relationship or anything. And so we were like fighting over these assumptions. We were fighting about things that like were really important to her and not important to me, because she asked my opinion on it, and I was like, well, I'll give you my opinion, or vice versa. And so we just realized that there was a bunch of systems that we could put in place that would help us avoid 90% of the fights, 90% of the resentment, 90%
right.
And a big breakthrough was when we just flat out started negotiating. Just the way we all right, well, what if I did this? What would that be worth to you? Like, okay, if you did this, I will give you pretty much anything. Like for me, I was like, you know what? If you would just do mornings, I'll do everything else. I'll make dinner. I'll clean up dinner. Like I gave him this ridiculous.
And I was like, I don't need you to do that
much. Because the mornings were sucking my joy. They were sucking my life force, And I was like,
and you needed that to create.
I was like crawling into my work day,
right. You just spent all of it. Yeah.
I was like, if you take mornings, I will do. And I gave him this ridiculous list of things I would do. And then you were like, oh, I don't even need that. I'll just, and so we just started negotiating like, all right, well, you know, I'll give you this, but then I want this in return. And people are sometimes scandalized when
especially
we talk about
when we
this.
negotiate sex.
Yeah, like we'll negotiate all kinds of stuff, but it's really empowering, and it means that you both end up getting what you need. Like, you know,
and it's good to know how to negotiate. I mean, that's just a wonderful skill, and unfortunately not taught, especially to women. Oh my God, it's like we don't negotiate. You take whatever someone offers you, and then when you negotiate, it's like what? But it's so empowering to be able to do that and to realize, you know, most anything is up for negotiation. Let's just have a conversation about this, because this thing I might think is huge for you, but you don't even care. It's like you didn't even notice it on there. Oh, great. Well, like, let's just shift that. And then everyone gets what they need. Otherwise, we're trying to read minds, which is ridiculous. And so many freaking marriages end in divorce, you know? I mean, you've already been through that. It's like you already had relationships that ended, and you all were meant to be together. That's why. But still, it's like you want to figure out, like, what were the lessons learned? How can we eliminate some of that unnecessary friction about stuff that you're like, really? Why are we arguing about the dishwasher? But it's just because we need to have a larger conversation about when do you have the most energy, and you know, what do we need to do here to get to a place where this can be fun.
And I think the other thing is, what are the places that the world tells you should want this thing, even though you don't actually want it? So for us, taking the mornings, for example, we were both for a period of time, two single moms. And the dream of having someone else to do the morning bullshit with, to get them off to school, to pack the lunches, to like fight about what coat they're going to wear. It felt so like, oh my God, we're going to have someone to do this with. It felt so fantastic to have that. And that's the dream that every woman everywhere wants, is like a spouse that's there to share that with you, right? And it turned out that like, I fucking hated it. I hate mornings with her. She's the worst to spend time in the mornings with.
Right.
I love her so much after 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Right.
I love her.
I'm dreamy after 10.
She's a
10.
But literally, we were having 80% of our fights in the car on the way home from drop off, or getting the kids in the car. Like the fight would start getting the kids in the car, and it would blow up when they all got it, because we were like, you know, that way you fight in front of your kids where you're like, yes, dear.
Right, on your best behavior.
And then they'd get out of the car and like, I can't believe you said that. And we would just be getting in fights over things that we had no business. We were just like, she wasn't her best self. She's not her best self in the mornings.
Right.
You should spend her first hour and a half alone.
It's true. And also, we were both used to being alpha in that situation. We were both used to being primary parent A. So it works much better where he's kind of pushes the mornings, and I push the evenings. And even though you're there, like, I'm on.
You're bad guy.
I know I'm on.
You have that vision. I think too, it's like when you're the one in charge, like my husband travels for his work from time to time, and I miss him, and it's like, it's more labor intensive when he's not here, but we have a blast, you know. I mean, the kids, it's my way. I don't know his opinions, and he's telling me they're I was like, whatever. It's just we're gonna be stuff on the floor because he's not here, telling me he can't be on the floor. And then when he comes, I'm like, we gotta get it together. And he's coming back. He's gonna, you know. And I know they have a ball when I'm not here.
Because he's like, we're eating ice cream for dinner, and you're all gonna love it.
Right, and so that's just that. Thank you for bringing this conversation to the table, and for our listeners to really say, like, what negotiations need to happen? What old rules are we living by that's causing stupid friction, and what can we break through on so that we can have a more harmonious home? I mean, that's it, because the kids are growing up in this. They're observing how to be in relationship. I think about that all the time. It's like, what messages am I sending to them about how you treat people, or how you get treated, or how you take time for yourself? You know, all of it. It's so important.
And the impact that it has, especially on a woman's career trajectory, is so powerful. It's huge, right? Most women have that invisible second shift, which feminists have been talking about since the 70s. And more recently, I don't know if you're familiar with Bridget Schulte's book, Overwhelmed.
No. Okay. Tell us about that.
Okay. So she's a journalist, Wall Street Journal journalist, who did a deep dive into Why is it that supposedly feminist and egalitarian partnerships so often end up looking like a parody of a 1950s sitcom? She found that it was true even among same-sex couples, which is so fascinating. And so it's not as simple, like Nick was saying, as like women bad, women good. Of course not. And it's not even quite as simple as patriarchy bad, you know, matriarchy good. It's a little bit more complicated, and it has to do with the way that we devalue the work of parenting, we devalue the work of keeping and making a home, we devalue the value of creating community. Like literally there's no financial value attached to those things in our world. And so as long as women continue to do the you know, the heavy lifting, of all of that stuff, they're doing all of this incredibly unpaid labor. So what kind of impact would it have on your career if you could start your morning out, you know, feeling like a boss, which doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's arrangement is going to look like ours, but you think about the amount of mental load that most women carry and the emotional labor that they do. And if we could even begin to make that more of an egalitarian partnership between men and women, like, holy crap, that's huge.
And it doesn't have to be mornings. It can be as simple as looking at your partner and go, oh, you have this thing, and every time you go to it, I a little bit hate you for it because I wish I had this thing too. So if that's your part, like I know lots of women who like their partners play pickup hockey every Thursday and Saturday night. They spend $3,000 a year on it, plus the bar tab every Wednesday night and Saturday night. And then they won't put anything into themselves or their own career or going to a conference because, well, the child, like, but it's not saying that your husband all of a sudden has to be the guy that does mornings and you get to sleep until 9 every day.
Right.
It's not going to work for some people. But if you can look at whatever that thing is that every time it happens, you get this like seething fire in your chest.
Right.
Figure out what's the thing that would balance that out and ask for that. And then when he says, well, I don't think we can afford that. Stop going, oh, okay, and go, oh, well, then I guess we can't afford your hockey either, huh? Should we just cut that out and we'll split that money in half and then we'll, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, I like it.
It's not it doesn't have to be this bad, angry thing.
It's not about like being mean or angry.
Right. It's just a conversation saying, hey, Stephen and I just went through that because I bought a Peloton, you know, this.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was never even a biker. And then I saw some colleagues, I was like, you know, maybe that would be good because it's cold here a lot of the year. When Stephen is traveling, it's harder for me to get to my yoga classes. I realized about myself, I am much nicer to be around for everyone else and for myself. I like being around myself more when I exercise. And so I'm like, I'm going to get this bike. And then he's never pushed back on anything because I make money in my business, but sometimes he doesn't know how much things cost. And he's like, I can't believe you bought that bike. And I'm like, dude, we've been paying for your tennis for the last, however many years because we belong to a club. We pay tennis extra. I'm like, and for years we've been doing that. I'm doing this. Like, it's just not, it's like, of course, but it was just that whole reminder. And it wasn't a mean-spirited thing, but it was.
And he's not being mean-spirited by it. It's just that it's this like, oh, I didn't think I forget about this $100 a month or $300 a month versus this larger ticket purchase.
Exactly. Kind of like that one-time cost. And so it's just important that we all have our value and we know it's more, what do you need? Like, what do you need to be enjoyable to be around?
This one needs swaths of alone time. And
Me
so
too.
We have 5 kids.
Yeah.
Like at 3 to 5, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, it's like, I said that to my kids last night. I go, I just need a few minutes where no one's talking to me. I was like, and we had a babysitter. I was like, you're going with the babysitter? I said to her, I'm like, I need no one in my room. No one in my room. I was like the edge. I was at the edge.
You don't know that edge.
You know the edge. Everyone, you have to know your edge. You have to know your edge, and then to not, it's like to just know how we can handle it in a healthy way. Otherwise, you're going to do crappy things to your body. You're going to say things that you regret. You're going to, just go on this slippery slope that it's very hard to recover if you start engaging in habits or things that aren't really going to get you where you want to be. I mean, that happens. We see that happening so much around the world, and I'm so happy that you bring this to light. And so really, my whole thing is about taking a stand, and what this conversation has been about, boundaries and relationships and being truthful and honest. So, I mean, what are you have different work, but yet you have this journey together that's so incredible and so inspiring for people to just listen and say, wow, I mean, this was not easy. This was not easy. It would have been easier just like, you know what you had to do with just coming out and then transitioning, and then your family's changing and moving and, you know, all the things. And so what is it that together you're really taking a stand for that you want our audience to take in?
Together.
Well, we just wrapped on actually a documentary that we made together. It's called Just Another Beautiful Family. Actually, as soon as we wrap up here, I'm going to go hop on our minivan and go down to the studio and get the final cut of it, which is super crazy, exciting. So it's been interesting. Like I said, we've tried to work together and it was kind of a disaster. And a few years in, we've found some ways to kind of collaborate again. And that's been really exciting. Yeah. So this documentary is one of the, so we see it as kind of the first in a line of several projects that we want to do all around honoring all kinds of beautiful families, not just families that have gay or queer or trans parents or kids, but just to bring a light to the more diverse and beautiful and interesting and quirky and sometimes invisible people and families that don't necessarily get a lot of airtime in the mainstream.
Yeah, our big thing is that every family is a beautiful family. That if you are, you know, if you have a trans person and it's a beautiful family. If you have a disabled parent, a beautiful family. If you have an adopted family, you have a beautiful family. Whatever version of your family it is.
Intergenerational families, foster families, chosen families, single parent homes. Like there's so many different kinds of families beyond two parents and some kids.
Right. And even, with just choices. I remember when, we weren't planning to be a homeschooling family. You know, that to me was like a freaking curveball of curveballs. I'm like, excuse me? Like it was just this wild, my oldest son, I've talked about it a lot on the show. I kind of went through it, you know, when I was producing this show. And I remember just feeling so different. I'm like, what? I don't know how to be this. Luckily, I did have a cousin who homeschooled her kids, and they all were like lovely. But I remember just thinking, who does that? And why would you do that? And how does one do that? And now we're in our, finishing up our third school year and continuing on. And it's just been, I remember at first being kind of afraid to tell people about this and keeping it from my clients, kind of like with you, Nick, like, I'm just not going to say anything. I thought I may lose clients. They might think that I'm not serious about my business anymore, because how can you homeschool and have a business? Like that just seems really impossible. But I've learned so much about just opening your mind and to trust that if something is put in front of you, you know this truth. It doesn't even matter if not everyone gets it. Like, do you get it? Does your family understand? Like, can you all come to a place where you can have this beautiful conversation? And, trying to be like everyone else in the world, like that's the losing proposition anyway. So it's this whole idea of just embracing. I love that. Just Another Beautiful Family. So when does the documentary come out? How can people see it? How can we support this project?
Oh, thank you. Well, we're not sure yet. Actually, we're hoping to submit it to some film festivals, which means that it might be months and months and months and months.
Yeah.
But this fall, if all goes well, we'll be coming out with a new podcast, tentatively titled The Beautiful Families Podcast.
I would stick with that.
Or you can follow us on Instagram. We're always
and you're individual, so you're individually on Instagram, and we'll sync that up on our show notes page.
So we were just kind of floating around there. We're writing and figuring things out.
There's so many things that this could be made into. This is what you all have. It's like, and this is what I do in my work. I'm like, oh yeah, you have this asset. You have this story, you're going to take it in, one piece, and then there's another slice you can take of it, and then you can take it over here. And with anything, it's just following the breadcrumbs. One thing just leads to the next, There's a film festival here where I live is actually coming up. We're recording this in May. It'll come out a few months down the line. But this film festival happens in late May every year here in the Berkshires, Berkshire International Film Festival. So check that one out. We have people coming out of town. It's huge. Put that on your list.
It's on the list. Yeah.
Put it. And then if you get here, we'll hang out.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Great.
We'll follow along and see where we end up, because we have no idea.
But that's just it, right? How can we ever know? And so for that message for our listeners, like, how can you ever know where you're going to freaking end up? It's that feeling, that thought is so debilitating for many. They want to know, where is this going to take me exactly? I want to know that I'm going to be safe. I want to know that there's going to be a pot of money waiting for me. I want to know that everyone's going to love me. I'm not going to get any negative feedback. I mean, okay, first off, that's never going to happen. You're going to get negative feedback. All right. But what you said, Nick, earlier on, I just wanted to touch on that. You said the more that you were honest and open, that led to more success, that led to, greater strides in your business. And that's what's happened for me as well. There's no use, especially when you're a business owner. It's like, why are you trying to hide certain things? Right. I mean, sometimes we have to do that more when we're in other people's organizations. We're kind of like keeping up appearances, or, if you said this thing, it would not be met with the greatest enthusiasm. But when you're doing your own thing, like, why wouldn't I just want to be me? Why wouldn't I just want to do the thing that I really want to do? So I commend you both, and I appreciate you being on the show. This has been so awesome. And I know that, I'm just very excited for you. I'm excited for everything that you all are building together, and that you are bringing this conversation to the world. Obviously, you've lived it, but that message around family, I mean, to me, it's so important that we nourish families. And, here in the U.S., we've had just crazy things that have gone on with families being ripped apart. And my heart broke and continues to break when I see these things, because families belong together and families can look lots of different ways. And the more that we have these conversations, it's going to heal a lot of hearts and just generational wounding from the past that said it has to be this way or that way, when we are all living in a time now where people are, our eyes are open in ways that we didn't have this language before, and now we do.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Please join me in thanking Nick and Katherine North. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm Jenny Fennig, and I look forward to having you on the next episode of Get Gutsy. Stay courageous.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Get Gutsy with Jenny Fennig. Gutsy leaders unite and ignite.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Gutsy as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. Are you responsible for leading and growing your spiritual business? If so, I have a free tool for you that will help you spread your message like wildfire. It's called the Sacred Marketing Puzzle, and it's a one-page PDF guide that simplifies the often mysterious and confusing world of marketing. When you use sacred marketing tools to amplify your message, you'll provide huge value to your tribe and grow your business. What are you waiting for? Go to jennyfennig.com/puzzle to get yours instantly. That's jennyfennig.com/puzzle. Gutsy leaders, unite.